Good morning. What? Good morning. I think this is Legislative Day 28, commonly referred to as crossover. The hour for convening having arrived, all members will please take their seats. Mr. Clerk, will you please ring the bell? Okay, we're ready to get started. This morning we're going to dispense with the roll call until after the chaplain because Rules Committee is still meeting. So we'll just dispense with the roll call. Doorkeepers, will you please lock the doors and keep them locked? We will begin the day, as is our custom, with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 65th House District, Representative Medisha Thomas. Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. We have a special treat in our midst this morning. I would like to introduce to you a man of God who has demonstrated many godly principles: integrity, a student of the word, leadership, and faith. Not to mention, he's an expert in our state's #1 industry, agriculture. He is a UGA grad and has 3 sons with his lovely wife, Jessica. The minister before us is not only a preacher of God's word, he is also appointed by the Biden administration to our state executive director of USDA Farm Service Agency, hailing all the way from Warner Robins via Athens, Georgia, Minister Mr. Arthur Tripp.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, Representative Thomas, everyone gathered today. You know, I keep hearing that today is truly an important day. You know, there are a lot of people inside and outside of this building that are praying harder than they've ever prayed before, hoping that their bill can somehow make it to the other side of the chamber. Well, I've got some good news. And no, my authority as his chaplain does not grant me the authority to deem bills as passed. But I've got even better news, because I know of someone who has experience in crossing over. You see, I am reminded of Mark 4:35, when Jesus left the crowd behind as he crossed over to the other side to pray. Come on now, y'all know the story when Jesus was traveling to the other side and the storm broke out. You see, all too often, even in our own lives, we refuse to leave the crowd and to go to the other side. But you see, each of us, we must follow the steps of our Savior to go to the other side. Perhaps it's to take a tough vote, which may not be popular, but yet somehow we know in the depths of our soul that's the right thing to do. You see, in order for us to continue to move our state forward and to remain as the best state in the nation, we're going to need some people who are willing to cross over party lines, to cross over political ideologies, and to forsake the status quo so that we can continue to march forward toward a better tomorrow. Look, I know it's not easy, it's not going to be popular, nor is it going to be comfortable, which is why it is so important that we lean into the immovable passage of Galatians 6:9, which states, "Let us not be weary in well-doing, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we faint not." You know, I know each of us are familiar with seasons, and For those of us who are closely tied to the field of agriculture, we know all too well there's a time and a season for everything. A season to sow, a season to grow, and a season to harvest. You know, there could be said that there are a lot of similarities between politics and agriculture. For example, when each of you first won your elections, that was a time of triumph and happiness. And now that we're nearly midway through the session, I'm sure a few of you may have felt your bumps and bruises along the way. But even now, several iconic leaders that once graced these hallways and this chamber with their presence, they are now held closely in our minds and in our spirits. And so that's why it's so important that we lean into Galatians 6:9, because while our time on this planet may be finite, the fruits of our labor will continue on. And so while we work, while we churn, and while we wrestle, we must remember to not become weary in well-doing. Let us not be weary when your committee chair may call that early committee hearing, because you know there may be a young child that's counting on you to show up and to speak on their behalf. Let us not be weary as we've seemingly held our 10th Telethon Hall of the year, because you know there may just be a younger version of you waiting on the other line, waiting to be inspired. Let us not be weary when we are called to sometimes go against the grain, to ruffle a few political feathers in this political sphere, all because of that burning desire that led you to this chamber. It's trying to break out. That idea that you wrestled with, you know, it might just be so crazy that it just might work. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been equipped and prepared for this journey. You have been chosen for such a time as this. And my prayer for us today is that we do not give up, that we do not relent. And I know at times it will seem impossible. It's going to seem hard. But do not worry, for Scripture tells us that joy cometh in the morning, and we will reap a harvest if we faint not. So to those of you that are hoping to get your bill to the other side of the chamber and perhaps all the way to the governor's desk, I wish you well. But let us be confident in this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. So let us move forward in love, caring for one another, taking care of our neighbor, even if they don't think like us, even if they don't act like us, even if they don't look like us. Let us move forward with love and with grace. Will you pray with me? Father, right now I pray for every heartbeat under the sound of my voice. I pray for these leaders and ask that you search their hearts and give them the wisdom, give them the discernment, the power, the zeal, the fervor, and the ability to recognize and implement your will. Father, I pray for their families and for this great state. Father, I ask that you place a hedge of protection around us and that you bless our elected leaders, that you bless our farmers, and that you bless every person throughout our great state and throughout our entire world. Father, we thank you for giving us the gift of today, for that is why it is called the present. We ask of all these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Pastor, we appreciate not just your service to us here this morning, but your service to your fellow man in agriculture. And that was a great devotion. Thank you so much. Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Members, you may greet Pastor Tripp in the South Ante room for a photo. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal from the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And on another note, do not go, do not go where the path may lead you. Go where there's not a path and leave a trail.
Now that's profound. That is profound. It was worth the wait. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to dispense with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day?
Representative Administration in the 104th moves following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period of unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 662 by Representative Bruce, the 61st, Miller, the 62nd, Panich, the 51st, Olalier, the 59th, Jones, the 60th, and others. Bill being titled an act to authorize the assessment and collection of a technology fee.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 663 by Representative Hatchett of the 155th, Smith of the 138th, Burkle of the 169th, Jones of the 25th, Taylor of the 173rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to regulation and construction of hospitals.
Health.
House Bill 664 by Representative Stevens of the 164th. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 47.2.101 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to credible service in the employee's retirement system.
Retirement.
House Bill 665 by Representative Glaze of the 67th, Bruce the 61st, Barnes of the 86th, Okoye of the 102nd, Thomas of the 65th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 80 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions applicable to counties.
Governmental affairs.
House Bill 666 by Representative Jenkins of the 136th. Bill be titled an act to provide a new charter for the town of Lone Oak.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 667 by Representative Davis of the 87th, Scott of the 76th, Schofield of the 63rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions of wells and drinking water.
Natural resources and environment.
House Bill 668 by Representative Ololier of the 59th, Glaze of the 67th, Green of the 154th, Scott of the 76th, Hughley of the 141st, and others. The bill being titled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 2 with Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Quality Basic Education Act.
Education.
House Bill 669 by Representative Smith of the 18th. Bill being titled an act to amend Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to commerce and trade.
Judiciary.
House Resolution 399 by Representative Crowe of the 118th, Daniel the 117th, Douglas the 78th, Holly the 116th, Mathiak the 74th, and others. A resolution honoring the life of Officer Parma Desier and dedicating a road in his memory.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 55 by Senator Parrott of the 42nd, Butler the 55th, Lucas the 26th, Harrell of the 40th, Kennedy the 18th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 80 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to counties.
Small business development.
Senate Bill 62 by Senator Summers of the 13th, Robertson of the 29th, Tillery the 19th, Dugan of the 30th, Ginn of the 47th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 60, Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions applicable to counties.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 92 by Senator Robertson, the 29th, Kennedy, the 18th, Walker, the 20th, Cowser to the 46th, Brass to the 28th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 18 to Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding prosecuting attorneys.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
Senate Bill 106 by Senator Walker, the 20th, Kennedy, the 18th, Gooch to the 51st, Robertson to the 29th, Anna DeVarte to the 31st, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to medical assistance generally.
Public and Community Health.
Senate Bill 109 by Senator Eccles, the 49th, Walker to the 20th, Gooch to the 51st, Kennedy the 18th, Watson to the 1st, and others. The bill be titled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to medical assistance generally.
Public and Community Health.
Senate Bill 132 by Senator Beach of the 21st, Donizal of the 27th, Goodman of the 8th, Summers of the 13th, Anderson of the 24th, and others. The bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to agriculture.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
Senate Bill 148 by Senator Kennedy, the 18th, Strickland of the 17th, Gooch of the 51st, Robertson of the 29th, Anna DeVarte of the 31st, and others. The bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 3, Title 14 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to nonprofit corporations.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 157 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Goodman of the 8th, Robertson of the 29th, Anderson of the 43rd, Jones of the 10th. Bill be titled an act to amend Titles 20, 26, 31, 33, and 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to education, food, and drugs.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
Senate Bill 181 by Senator Payne of the 54th, Kennedy the 18th, Butler of the 55th, Dugan of the 30th, Islam of the 7th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 25 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Georgia Technology Authority.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
Senate Bill 215 by Senator Brass of the 28th, Red of the 33rd, Walker of the 20th, Robertson of the 29th, Estevez of the 6th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 18 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the inspection of public records.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 222 by Senator Burns of the 23rd, Watson the 11th, Payne of the 54th, Dixon the 45th, Ginn of the 47th, and others. The bill to be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to primaries and elections generally.
Governmental Affairs.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 638 by Representative Holcomb of the 81st, a bill relating to general provisions regarding law enforcement officers and agencies. House Bill 639 by Representative Saines of the 180th, Kelly of the 16th, Chokers of the 151st, LaHood of the 175th, a bill relating to ad valorem taxation of property. House Bill 640 by Representative Holcomb of the 81st and Hitchens of the 161st, a bill relating to the university system. House Bill 641 by Representative Bentley of the 150th, Bennett of the 94th, Galliard of the 162nd, Sharper of the 177th, Willis of the 55th, and others. A bill relating to definitions regarding tuition equalization grants at private colleges and universities. House Bill 642 by Representative Ridley of the 22nd, Byrd of the 20th, Thomas of the 21st, Jaspers of the 11th, Carson of the 46th, and others. A bill to establish the Board of Elections and Registration for Cherokee County. House Bill 643 by Representative Bruce of the 61st, Miller of the 62nd, Glaze of the 67th, Jones of the 60th, Thomas of the 65th, and others. A bill relating to the Georgia Judicial Retirement System. House Bill 644 by Representative Ridley of the 22nd, Byrd of the 20th, Thomas of the 21st, Jaspers of the 11th, Carson of the 46th, and others. A bill to amend an act to create a Board of Elections and Registration for Cherokee County. House Bill 645 by Representative Yurta of the 152nd. A bill to amend an act to provide a new charter for the City of Sylvester. House Bill 646 by Representative Schofield of the 63rd, Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th. A bill relating to miscellaneous provisions under the Equality Basic Education Act. House Bill 647 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Schofield of the 63rd, Davis of the 87th, a bill relating to Sexual Offender Registration Review Board. House Bill 648 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th, Schofield of the 63rd, a bill relating to general provisions relative to public assistance. House Bill 649 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th, Lumsden of the 12th, Barton of the 5th, a bill to amend an act providing compensation of the members of the Board of Education of Floyd County. House Bill 650 by Representative Williams of the 168th, Stevens of the 164th, Bonner of the 73rd, Glaze of the 67th, Jackson of the 128th, a bill relating to barbers and cosmetologists. House Bill 651 by Representative Seabaugh of the 34th, Hitchens of the 161st, Williams of the 37th, Stevens of the 164th, Scoggins of the 14th, and others, a bill relating to sale or use of ignition of consumer firework products. House Bill 652 by Representative Maynard of the 56th, Smith of the 138th, Daniel of the 117th, Moore of the 91st, Ballard of the 147th, a bill relating to elementary and secondary education. House Bill 653 by Representative Bonner of the 73rd, Jaspers of the 11th, Jones of the 25th, Newton of the 127th, Taylor of the 173rd, and others, a bill relating to general provisions relative to professions and business. House Bill 654 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th, Williams of the 148th, Corbett of the 174th, Smith of the 138th, Buckner of the 137th, a bill relating to waste management cost reimbursement fees and surcharges. House Bill 655 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, a bill relating to fees and taxes. House Bill 656 by Representative Reeves of the 99th, Taylor of the 173rd, Campbell of the 171st, Green of the 154th, Kelly of the 16th, and others, a bill relating to crimes and offenses. House Bill 657 by Representative Neal of the 79th, Stoner of the 40th, Gilliard of the 162nd, a bill relating to law enforcement officers and agencies. House Bill 658 by Representative Schofield of the 63rd, Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th, bill relating to disclosure of arrest booking photographs prohibited. House Bill 659 by Representative Parrish of the 158th, a bill relating to general provisions regarding insurance. House Bill 660 by Representative Parrish of the 158th, a bill relating to actions against certain applicants or licensees. House Bill 661 by Representative Parrish of the 158th, the bill relating to Medicaid coverage for lactation and postpartum care. House Resolution 385 by Representative Hagan of the 156th, a resolution recognizing Mr. R.T. Stanley Jr. and dedicating a road in his honor. House Resolution 386 by Representative Crowe of the 118th, a resolution honoring the life of Congressman Mac Collins and dedicating an interchange in his memory. Senate Bill 32 by Senator Anavarte of the 31st, Robertson of the 29th, Gooch of the 51st, Kennedy of the 18th, Brass of the 28th, and others, a bill relating to public school property and facilities. Senate Bill 46 by Senator Hostetler of the 52nd, Butler of the 55th, Watson of the 1st, Hickman of the 4th, Williams of the 25th, and others, a bill relating to control of sexually transmitted disease. Senate Bill 86 by Senator Brass of the 28th, Sims of the 12th, Gooch of the 51st, Anavarte of the 31st, Kennedy of the 18th, and others, a bill relating to education. Senate Bill 107 by Senator Burns of the 23rd, Jones II of the 22nd, Still of the 48th, Kennedy of the 18th, Gooch of the 51st, and others, a bill relating to health. Senate Bill 131 by Senator Tillery of the 19th, Hatchett of the 50th, Duggan of the 30th, Harbin of the 16th, Cowser of the 46th, and others, a bill relating to permanent guardianship. Senate Bill 133 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Burns of the 23rd, Duggan of the 30th, Gooch of the 51st, and others, a bill relating to the juvenile code. Senate Bill 134 by Senator Cowser of the 46th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Kennedy of the 18th, Gooch of the 51st, Strickland of the 17th, and others, a bill relating to evidence. Senate Bill 135 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Hatchett of the 50th, Kennedy of the 18th, Strickland of the 17th, Gooch of the 51st, and others, a bill relating to determination of paternity. Senate Bill 216 by Senator Brass of the 28th, Brett of the 33rd, Walker of the 3rd of the 20th, Robertson of the 29th, Estevez of the 6th, and others, a bill relating to children and youth services. Senate Resolution 175 by Senator Brass of the 28th, Henderson of the 24th, Burns of the 23rd, Duggan of the 30th, Kennedy of the 18th, and others. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Dual Enrollment for Highly Skilled Talent at Younger Ages. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees, the clerk will read.
Representative Chris Irwin of the 32nd District, Chairman of the Committee on Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Education has had under its consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 504 do pass by substitute. House Bill 506 do pass by substitute. House Bill 537 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Chris Irwin of the 32nd District, Chairman. Representative John LaHood of the 175th District, Chairman of the Committee on Governmental Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Governmental Affairs has had under its consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 374 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 585 do pass. House Resolution 303 do pass. House Bill 409 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 331 do pass. House Bill 426 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative John LaHood of the 175th District, Chairman. Representative Gunner of the 8th District, Chairman on Committee on Judiciary, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary has had under its consideration the following bills and resolutions of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Resolution 302 do pass. House Bill 30 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 370 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 572 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Gunner of the 8th District, Chairman. Representative Tyler Paul Smith of the 18th District, Chairman on Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary Non-Civils had under its consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 364 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 450 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 487 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Tyler Paul Smith of the 18th District, Chairman. Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman on Committee on Motor Vehicles, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Motor Vehicles has had under its consideration the following bills of the House and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 151 do pass. House Bill 618 do pass. House Bill 515 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman. Representative Jay Collins of the 71st District, Chairman on Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security has had under its consideration the following bill of the House. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 451 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jay Collins, the 71st District, Chairman. Representative Rick Jaspers of the 11th District, Chairman on Committee on Transportation, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Transportation had under its consideration the following bills and resolution of the House, instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 189 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 617 do pass by committee substitute. House Resolution 256 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Rick Jaspers of the 11th District, Chairman. Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman on Committee on Ways and Means, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Ways and Means has had under its consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 101 do pass by substitute. House Bill 170 do pass by substitute. House Bill 223 do pass. House Bill 283 do pass by substitute. House Bill 449 do pass. House Bill 454 do pass by substitute. House Bill 322 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
We're going to have the morning roll call. So members will please come to the floor and take your seats. We're going to have the morning roll call. Rules was ongoing a few minutes ago, so we're going to have the morning roll call now. We have a new member to introduce, but we're going to wait until we get everyone on the floor. Mr. Clerk, will you ring the bell? All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, if I can have your attention just for a moment or two. We have a lot to do today. But we've already done a few things this morning that impact this House. So this morning we recognized a new member, the gentleman from the 119th House District, Representative Holt Persinger. Holt, stand and let us welcome you. Research is ongoing, but he may be the first member of this body to come in on crossover day. Representative, however I vote, that's how you should vote. I can just go ahead and tell you now. And if I don't vote, you don't have to vote. We're going to recognize the doctor of the day, Representative Barry Fleming, of the 125th House District down in Columbia County and some other areas. And he has actually has two physicians with him. I'll let him handle that. Representative Barry Fleming. Yeah, why don't you tell him? Okay. No.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do need two doctors with me. Unfortunately, neither one of them are psychologists, and that's what I really need. But nonetheless, the Speaker was kind enough to let me let Dr. Newton, my good friend, introduce Dr. Pope, who he knows very well. Dr. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. It's a great honor for me to introduce a good friend of mine that I've worked with for years. It's Richard Pope, but it's actually Dr. Skip Pope. He says he'd rather go by Skip. He did do some great training. He went to the Uniformed Services University for medical school in Maryland, then graduated from Eisenhower Medical Center as an internship, and then was in the board certified in orthopedic surgery, in particular shoulder, hand, elbow related care. He was a colonel in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. Lots of things. One of the Army Commendation Badge with Valor and the Bronze Star. One of the big things he does now is what we've talked about a lot, about teaching our future doctors, future medical students, and nurses and nurse practitioners and PAs, and he's very involved in education with that. And with that, I'm just glad he's here serving us today. I know if you have any kind of an orthopedic issue, which occasionally we run into here, he's one I know I've trusted, and I trust him here today as well. Dr. Pope.
Thank you, sir. I'll be very brief in recognition of your long day ahead of you here today. Wish you all health today, and thank you for your service to the state of Georgia.
Dr. Pope, we appreciate you getting here. I want you to analyze my swing here in a minute. I haven't been hitting this thing hard enough, so I need some help. We're going to move on to morning orders. Representative Maynor is recognized for a morning order.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, can you please rise to help me congratulate approximately 62 Showtime Elite athletes? Will you guys please stand in the gallery? They took home 5 national championship titles at the Cheer Sport National Competition, held recently at the Georgia World Congress Center. A special acknowledgement to the gymnasium owner, Carolyn Garrison. These girls and Ian, the only boy on the team, put in hours and hours of training each day to constantly improve their skills. The coaches are Katie Arbo, Shannon Thornton, Sydney Newman, Caitlin Browning, and Ashley Whitfield. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Was Representative Thomas down there cheering as well? That's good. Representative Bentley is recognized for a morning order. Representative Bentley. Time's a-wasting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues, and happy Monday. This is Crossover, and I'm so happy to have Macon County Middle School present. They are not in the chambers right now, but they're on their way. So if you see a group of young men walking around with red bow ties, they're from Macon County, Georgia, the home of former state representative Lynn Moore James. So please welcome them to the Georgia State Capitol when you see them in the halls. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That concludes our morning orders. We're going to move on to the rules calendar. Moving to the rules calendar. I'm going to ask the members to give your attention to the member in the well. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 532?
House Bill 532 by Representative Campbell, the 135th to be titled Act to provide that future elections for the office of Chief Judge of the Magistrate Court of Pike County shall be nonpartisan elections. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair Lady Camp is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. I rise to bring to you today House Bill 532. This is a local measure, but because it affects partisanship, it becomes a general bill. In Pike County, where I'm from, they have asked for the magistrate judge to be nonpartisan. I have a letter of support from the magistrate judge and a unanimous resolution from the county commission. And I'll stand for any questions.
Let's see. Yes, you do have a question. A gentleman from the 119th district, Representative Persinger, has a question to your right. Oh, he's not at his desk. Wait a minute. He may have a question. I think I see him coming. He waves. So he missed a chance for his first question. The lady has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 139, the nays 20. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, if you'll read the caption to House Bill 166.
House Bill 166 by Representative Mathiak, the 74th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Article 6, Chapter 10 and Title 15 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to constables, clerks, and other court personnel so as to provide for the qualification of constables. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair Lady Mathiak recognized to present the bill.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. Today I have House Bill 166, and what this does, it allows for our magistrate judges to be able to hire constables from within their district, not necessarily just the county, and that's all it does. I'm asking for your favorable consideration, and I'll yield the well.
You have no question. The ladies yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 165, the nays 2. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, if you'll read the caption to HB 249.
House Bill 249 by Representative Martin of the 49th, to be entitled an act to amend subpart 2A of Part 3 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 entitled 20, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to needs-based financial aids programs so as to provide for definitions. This bill having referred to the Committee on Higher Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Martin is recognized to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 249 seeks to improve the work this House did along with the Senate and the Governor last year in House Bill 1435 to improve the college completion grant. On lines 18 through 21 of the bill, we're right-sizing the amount of completion that needs to be done. If you will recall, 80% completion of degree programs needed to be made in order for a student to be eligible. We found that financial planning happens annually, so we have changed that this year to, in a 4-year program, one needs to be 70% complete to be eligible for the aid. In a 2-year program, 45%. It doesn't make sense if you think about it. If you're in a 2-year program and doing this aid annually, to think about somebody being 70 or 80% finished after 1 year if it's a 2-year program. So I ask your support to help us improve this. Also on line 29, we'll have additional funds budgeted this year. So we're moving the total award up to $3,500, but still no more than $2,500 at a time. I have a list, and I'll be happy to share it with anyone about the subscription, if you will, the usage deployment of this capital. So far, $4 million of the $10 million have been deployed, and it will be deployed. The remaining of that would be deployed this year before the end of the fiscal year in June. So, ladies and gentlemen, if there are no questions, I ask for your continued support of this important program to help Georgia students get across the finish line and become higher wage earners in our state.
Gentleman, yield for a question.
I
He
would.
has one.
Yes.
The lady from the 89th, Representative Becky Evans, has a question to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
Yes, I just want to confirm what you just said. So you said $4 million out of the $10 million has been spent, and the remaining will be deployed. So that means that the other $6 million will be given out. There's enough demand for that this remaining amount will be given out this year?
It's impossible to know exactly, Representative Evans, but what we do know is for two-year programs, TCSG, which was a large target of this, most of their programs are certificates, are programs that are 2 years or less, and they had a really hard time using it with the 80% number. So we think that will increase the usage substantially. So I can't tell you that all $6 million that's left will be deployed, but this is numbers as of the 22nd of February, 2023. I'm told another 400,000 has gone out since then. So it is our job to make people eligible, and then financial authorities at each college and university, technical school, take those criteria and determine and allocate that to the students. So we hope it will be put to use.
Thank you.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well and ask for the House favorable consideration on HB 249.
The author has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 168, the nays 1. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, if you'll read the caption to House Bill 458, 458.
House Bill 458 by Representative Perkle of the 169th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to hemp farming so as to provide for intent. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Perkle is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So now's the time that you wake up and you heard hemp and you see Representative Perkle in the well and you're thinking, what in the world? If you recall, I was one of 3 no votes on the inaugural hemp bill by my good friend, Chairman John Corbett, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. You might ask, why do you have the hemp bill? Well, CBD and hemp-related derived products are not adequately regulated in the state of Georgia. Listen to this. A 10-year-old can legally purchase a 100 milligram THC gummy in the state of Georgia, and it is legal right now. There is no database or record of how many stores sell hemp products, where they're made, and what is actually in it. There's a recent Journal of American Medical Association study that found that 76% of the hemp products tested were inaccurately labeled. 76% were wrong. The language in this bill is meant to provide consumer protections. Think guardrails. It does it in 2 primary ways. One, All consumable products, hemp products, must have a QR code on the packaging that shows the results of a full panel certificate of analysis by an independent, accredited agency, a laboratory. And secondly, it prevents the purchase of consumable hemp products by anyone under the age of 21, including signage. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I ask you to vote yes.
Gentleman, yield for a question. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Representative Ridley from the sixth House District to your extreme right has a question, if you'll yield.
Yes, sir, I will.
It's my friend Yield.
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that the Agriculture Department and the Agriculture Committee is in favor of this bill, and someone is mistakenly handing out cards outside that said that they're against it and has the Georgia Grown logo on it, which is against trademark rules?
I think the gentleman knows what he speaks.
Thanks, sir.
You yield for one more question.
Yes, sir,
from
I
your
will.
friend from the coast.
Yes, sir.
Representative Gilliard to your extreme left over here has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that I am an original member of the study committee and was also on that bill?
If the gentleman so states, I'm absolutely sure he knows what he's talking about.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it also not true that I am one of the unofficial members of the hemp caucus of the Georgia General Assembly and believe firmly in the product and went to a business this weekend and the hemp was not legitimized?
If the gentleman so states.
Excellent bill. Thank you so much for this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will yield the will. Ask you to vote yes on this one.
The gentleman's yielded the will. I thought we were going to identify the members of the hemp caucus. I was getting a little nervous on that deal, but gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. For what purpose does Representative Fry rise? He waves. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 169, the nays 2. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, if you'll read the caption to House Bill 462.
House Bill 462 by Representative Ballinger, the 23rd, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Juvenile Code so as to enact the Raise the Age Act. This bill having referred to the Committee on Juvenile Justice, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Ballinger is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an issue that I have worked on for several years. It's been percolating around this House. This House actually passed it out, I think either last year or the year before. But it's been around for a really long time, and it's been very much vetted by all the agencies here in the state. The first part of the bill just deals with the implementation committee. The second part of the bill just goes through and basically strikes 17 and puts in 18. What this bill would do at its heart, our 17-year-olds in the state of Georgia do not go to juvenile court, they go to state or superior court. They're adjudicated just like adults. Anybody who's ever known a 17-year-old knows how far from adulthood that 17-year-old really is, even if you've just been 17. So that's basically what this bill does. This bill also has another key provision in it, a couple of key provisions that I want to go over with you. This bill, unlike a lot of bills, has a kill switch in it. The kill switch means that this bill will not go into effect unless everything is ready for the bill to go into effect and it is fully funded by the state. The state fully intends to take on every expense and everything that will entail the implementation of raising this age for juvenile court to include 17-year-olds. Second part of this bill, second key thing about this bill is that it does not include any gang offenses. Our prosecutors and law enforcement were very concerned about gang offenders, so we excluded them from the bill. So any 17-year-old that's charged with a gang offense will still go as an adult. And the third thing is it's for first-time offenders only. So if this is a person that's kind of been through the wheel and has been through juvenile court several times, they will not get another bite at the apple. The whole point of 17-year-olds being adjudicated in juvenile court has to do with a rehabilitative model that they have, has to do with some of the privacy conventions that are allowed in juvenile court that are not afforded in state or superior court, and it has to do with just maintaining them on that kind of straight and narrow path. 92% of first-time offenders who are adjudicated in juvenile court will never see a criminal courtroom again because of that rehabilitative, and they're certainly not being branded as a offender, so to speak. Law enforcement has two. I've whittled their concerns down to two. The first is they don't like the name of the implementation committee. They would rather it be something else. I don't know. The committee has to do with implementing the policy of 17-year-olds in juvenile court. So I don't really know what else to name the committee, but they don't like the name of the committee. And their second concern is the Department of Juvenile Justice resources. Now, the Department of Juvenile Justice testified in a full committee hearing of juvenile justice that they felt with the time and the necessary resources being provided that they would be able to accommodate the 17-year-olds that will be coming into their system. So they have no problem with it. However, they are neutral. They are officially neutral on the bill. They should be. They're an executive branch agency. It's not they should not have influence policy. We are the policy-making body for the state of Georgia. Not the executive branch, but we are the policy-making body, and we should be those arbiters that basically instruct them on what policies to enforce and how to enforce those. There are a couple of myths about the bill. One being that 17-year-olds are evil. They're going to go into our juvenile court system and they're going to corrupt the 15-year-olds. They're going to lead those 13, 14-year-olds down a dangerous path if they were to be incarcerated with those folks. Now, how is it a good thing to incarcerate a 17-year-old with a 50-year-old? I don't know how that's a good thing, but yet a 17-year-old with a 16-year-old is a bad thing. If anybody can explain that to me, please ring in. I'll be happy to take any comments. But if anybody could explain that to me, I would really appreciate it. Now, there's another myth that's been going around saying that this will allow our 17-year-olds to get away. They're going to skate. They're not going to be properly punished as they should be. Ladies and gentlemen, the bad acts that they commit, they're called 440 cases after the Senate bill that enacted this, which put all those very violent offenses into one category, and their original jurisdiction is Superior Court. Those cases are tried this way right now. After my bill passes, they will be treated the exact same way. There's no deviation, there's no change, there's no nothing. So these offenders are certainly not going to be getting off by any stretch of the imagination. Those are the key highlights of the bill. I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions.
You do have a question. Representative Kennard to your left has a question. Representative Kennard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
I do.
Thank you for bringing this measure. I fully support it. Is there a timeline estimate on how long it will take to implement the age change?
It is in the bill. So in other words, if the funding is in place, it will be implemented in January 1, 2025. However, if the money is not in place, then the bill will basically go dormant. We'll seek to find that funding, and then we'll try again the next year. So basically, that's the way the bill works. We have to have those important guardrails and funding in place before it goes into effect.
One more question.
Sure.
The earliest is January 1 of 2025?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lady yield for another question to your left. Representative Jasmine Clark has a question to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentle lady yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious, you mentioned that this bill will not apply to 17-year-olds that are in gangs, but you also made it a point to say that 17-year-olds in general are a lot more childlike than adult-like. So do you not think that 17-year-olds that are recruited into gangs can be rehabilitated just like a 17-year-old that commits a similar crime without a gang affiliation?
I do think that 17-year-olds are very much to be rehabilitated. Actually, there's a juvenile court judge in Cobb County, Judge Glennis, who has a very, it's the first of its kind in the state, but it's basically an alternative court for gang members to show those folks that there is a life outside of a gang. And it's operated in the juvenile court there in Cobb County. It's a program I would like to see across the state. This was just one of those, as you're making the sausage, this was one of those concessions that I made to law enforcement to assuage some of the concerns that they may have about the bill. So that's why that's in there.
Well, thank you. I definitely agree with you that 17-year-old gang members should have the option to go through juvenile court just like any other 17-year-old that commits a crime. Thank you for taking my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Lady has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I urge your favorable consideration to this very important measure.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. Report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 145, the nays 22. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Members, if I can have your attention up here for a minute. I want to introduce you to one of the finest members to ever serve in this House of Representatives. Not you, Al. You're a work in progress, I can assure you of that. Chairman Tom Dixon. Y'all make Tom welcome. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 498, 498?
House Bill 498, to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 1 of Chapter 18 to Title 43, the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to licenses for funeral directors and embalmers so as to change certain provisions related to the reinstatement of a lapsed funeral director's license. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Small Business Development, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The gentleman from the 149th House District, Representative Danny Mathis, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I bring to you House Bill 498. It's the reinstatement of license of funeral directors and embalmers that have lapsed. This bill was brought last year, passed through the House and the Senate, and even was signed, but we realized at that time it was just years going forward, not in the rears back to 10 years. So what we're trying to do now is just get it to where they can be reinstated with provisions. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I'd appreciate your yes vote.
The gentleman yield for one question.
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
I bet it's going to be brief, too. Chair recognizes Representative Bentley in the back for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Mr. Representative, is it not true that I support House Bill 498 and asking all members to please support this bill also? Is that not true?
Yes, ma'am, it is, and I thank you very much.
And thank you for your work on this legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there an objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 172, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Members, we're going to take up a bill now that was on Thursday's rules calendar that was postponed until today. House Bill 128. House Bill 128 was on Thursday's calendar, postponed, and we'll take it up today. House Bill 128. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 128.
House Bill 128 by Representative Hong of the 103rd District to be entitled an act to amend Titles 48 and 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to revenue and taxation and state government, respectively, so as to provide for representation of minority business enterprises and women-owned businesses. This bill has been referred to the Committee on State Properties and Community Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The governor's floor leader, Representative Hong, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I present to you House Bill 128 on behalf of the governor. What this bill will do is it will streamline the current state certification process for minority-owned businesses. Currently, you have to get a federal certification before you get a state certification. But we will take out the federal certification, and the Department of Administrative Services will take care of and set the eligibility for a state certification process. We are also adding women-owned businesses as well as veteran-owned businesses to this process. This is an optional process for these businesses, and this does come in after an executive order by the governor to look into the state contract procurement as well. Of course, the state agency will always look to the best value and low cost for our state when they are procuring state contracts. That is the bill, and I yield for any questions, Mr. Speaker.
You do have some questions. Representative Byrd, right out in front of you to your left a little bit, has a question. Representative Byrd is recognized for a question.
Thank you. Does the lady yield?
I yield.
Is it not true this excludes white males that are not veterans, and they would not be given the opportunity to have contracts on this bill? Is that not correct?
If the lady so states.
Representative Hughley to your left is recognized for a question.
And Mr. Speaker, if I could just say one more thing on that. The state certification process is for these groups. Again, state contract procurement is open to everybody. This is an optional process. It does make it more accessible. It does give these small businesses an opportunity to learn about the state contract procurement as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To your left, Representative Hughley is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentle lady yield?
I do.
Can you give us what you anticipate the effect will be in terms of the number of small and minority businesses that will be able to come under this provision? What do you expect is going to happen?
We don't have those numbers, obviously. So, of course, again, we have a growing number of small businesses in our state. And that's what the report found, and we are the #1 state to do business. But not all these businesses will have to go through the state certification process in order to obtain a state contract. So we don't know which businesses will be willing to go through this process, or if they just want to go ahead and submit for a state contract procurement.
Representative Williams to your left has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the lady yield?
Yes, I do.
Thank you for this bill, and as a signer of this bill, I think it is a step in the right direction, and it could possibly bring us a long way to more fairness in state contracts. And is it not further true, the last I checked, white males were doing pretty good with state contracts?
I yield the well, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The lady's wise beyond her years, there's no doubt about that. The lady has yielded the well. Representative Jasmine Clark is recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today first to say I am in support of what this bill does. I do believe that this is a step in the right direction. However, I did want to point out that while Georgia has quite a few minority-owned businesses, especially black-owned businesses right here in the Atlanta area, the number of those businesses that are actually getting state contracts is very, very small. And while I appreciate that this bill will increase the number of people that are now considered classified subcontractors, I worry that by increasing the numerator or the number of businesses that get this, we will kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, be cooking the books on how many minority businesses are actually getting state contracts. This bill is great for women-owned businesses. This bill is great for veteran-owned businesses. This bill actually does not do much to move the needle for the very large disparity that we see for black-owned businesses getting these state contracts. So while I will be voting yes today, I want to acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do to fix the gaps that we see when it comes to minority business enterprises getting state contracts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. Representative McCullum is recognized for a question. But the lady yielded the well, so you have to do a parliamentary inquiry when we get to that point. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered Representative, you'll need to mash your button again. It went off my screen. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. For what purpose does Representative McCullum rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to say, is it true that this bill would be good for, as being an honorably served veteran, that it would open up the gates for other veterans like me to use this program?
I'm sure the gentleman knows what he speaks, and it sounds like a noble purpose to me. Thank you for the question. For what purpose does Representative Chairman Bonner rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true, as my colleague just alluded to, that this bill would benefit all veterans regardless of race or gender?
If the gentleman so states, I know he's read the bill and he believes that to be true, and we have many, many honorable veterans in Georgia, and we welcome them here and appreciate their service. For what purpose does Representative Thomas rise from the 21st?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant Rule 133, as a veteran business owner, I ask to be excused from this vote.
The gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 160, the nays 3. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Chairman Hatchett for a motion. Chairman Hatchett. Take your time, Chairman Hatchett. I see you coming. And I'm sure there's nobody in this house can stop you from getting to the well. I'm certainly not going to try. The Chairman Hatchett's recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree or adopt the Conference Committee report on House Bill 18.
Didn't mean to rush you there, Mr. Chairman. Our posture, members of the House, is this document has been on our desk for the required hour that's required by our House rules, so it does meet all requirements for us to take up this amended budget. Mr. Clerk, will you read the Conference Committee report?
The Committee of Conference on House Bill 18 recommends that both the House of Representatives and the Senate recede from their positions, and that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to HB 18 be adopted. For the House, Representative Hatchett of the 155th, Representative Jones the 47th, Representative Estration of the 104th. For the Senate, Senator Tillery of the 19th, Senator Kennedy of the 18th, Senator Gooch of the 51st.
Chairman Hatchett is recognized to explain the Committee of Conference report for HB 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When it said CCR, all I could think of was Creedence Clearwater Revival. So I had a moment there. I guess I could say a senior moment, maybe. So I know the day's going to be long, so I'm going to keep my remarks fairly brief. It's been a month since HB 18 was passed by this House. The final conference committee agreements that you see on your desks aren't that different from the original document that passed our House in February. The budget was placed on your desk at 9:15, not long after we signed it. So I hope you've had time to review the agreements. Let me mention just a few of the highlights. I would be remiss not to begin with a few of the places where the House and Senate agreed not only with each other, but with the governor. Full funding for QBE and the midterm adjustment. $35.7 million to the governor's rural workforce housing initiative. $166.7 million for large economic development projects receiving REBA grants for Hyundai and Rivian. $92 million for reinsurance to help keep our health insurance premiums low, and $34.5 million for new public safety radio network for State Patrol and DNR. We also support two of the governor's proposed tax relief measures in this document. This budget reflects $1.1 billion infusion of surplus state general funds repurposed as motor fuel funds to keep the Georgia Department of Transportation whole after a 10-month suspension of motor fuel taxes. Our new conference committee number of $950 million in the homeowners tax relief grant is less than the governor's recommendation, but our figure is based on projections and provides for the maximum exemption on the assessed home value allowed by the Constitution, which is $18,000. We appreciate the Senate working with us to support a $50 million infusion for the state health benefit plan to phase in the employer contribution increase for non-certified employees. This will help school systems ease into an increased rate over a 2-year period. And $26.7 million for a $500 one-time benefit payment for state retirees in ERS. This initiative was started by the House and added to by the Senate and the conference committee. This adjustment positively impacts 54,000 state retirees and their beneficiaries. We appreciate the Senate coming to the House position on the $105 million for the Medical College of Georgia medical record system, $2.4 million for domestic violence shelter security upgrades, no difference in dollars, just we had to adjust the language, $300,000 for DBHDD opioid settlement administration, and $500,000 for space utilization assessment of our capital office and meeting requirement needs. We agree to the Senate enhancements to the House additions, a total of $8 million for the Crime Victims Emergency Fund. This fund provides compensation for expenses, loss of income, or support to victims of violent crime. The House added $7.8 million for airport aid for projects throughout the state, and the Senate added funds to bring the total to $18.2 million, and we agreed. The House, Senate, and Conference Committee added money for rail upgrades for a final total of $9.6 million. Both the House and the Senate added $5 million for a total of $10 million to address housing for youth with complex needs. Safety and security for our citizens, inmates, and guards was paramount to both chambers and the governor, with additional money added in each version for a total of $68.2 million in new funds added to the Department of Corrections for repairs, renovations, security, and technology upgrades. We liked and agreed with the Senate adds of $3.5 million for nursing program expansion grants to meet our nursing demand. We know there's a need for nurses. We started this program in the last budget cycle, and the applications far exceeded the funding. This allows for the grants to serve more nursing programs and students. $8.2 million to complete the World Congress Center escalator modernization, as well as 5 capital projects in TCSG and Regents brought forward from the 24 bond package to generate savings in debt service of $7.5 million. $5.5 million to match the $65 million for the Georgia Artificial Intelligence Manufacturing Project benefiting Southwest Georgia. There was never a disagreement on the dollars, only placement. The conference committee version places this funding in the Board of Regents. $3.2 million for the Department of Labor, capital and employee recruitment and retention needs. We wanted to support the new commissioner, but the request came too late in the House process. $50 million in state general funds and DOT to promote transparency and infrastructure needs for large economic development projects, and to preserve motor fuel funds for construction projects statewide. In closing, I'd like to note that this is no easy task to balance the revenue at hand with our needs statewide. There's a lot of input involved. I'd like to thank Senator Tillery and the Senate Budget and Evaluation Office, as well as our own staff, led by Christine Murdoch in the House Budget and Research Office. I think they deserve a hand. And I'll add, because without them, this wouldn't happen. I'd also like to thank the House Appropriations Subcommittees for their leadership, as well as the governor's staff and OPB for their combined efforts and the hours spent perfecting the amended FY23 budget. There's a lot in this document that we all can be proud of, and I ask for your favorable consideration of HB 18.
Gentleman, yield for a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
I have a question. Would you answer my question?
Definitely.
So is this your first budget that you are working on? And how many, I can't see the water, how many bottles of water you have down there?
Half.
Just a half. That's enough. That's enough. Mr. Chairman,
This is my first conference committee agreement report on a budget.
You've done outstanding work. I know you've worked, as the members of this House do know that you've worked extremely hard on this. You've covered many subjects that are important to this House, and I certainly appreciate you working with the Senate, but as we know, this House leads, and there were ideas that came from both sides of the aisle in this budget. And I appreciate all the members working with you, making their views known, and certainly for helping perfect this document as we move forward. Now, if you would yield for a real question, I'll recognize the Whip Park for a question. Mr. Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chairman Hatchett, for your hard work. I had two questions.
Yes, sir.
First, for the state health benefit plan, I appreciate the work of the House for originally appropriating $100 million to help phase in the burden on local governments, but now that it's $50 million, could you speak to the impact that it can have on local governments? And yeah.
Well, the local governments would be the school systems. So we had wanted to put $100 million. The Senate came back at $33 million. We settled at $50. But in that, we did, and you'll see the language, we did propose still staggering the increase to your school systems, $250 this for 24, $250 for 25, and then stating that by 26 we would still be at $1,580. But in the language also, we're asking the state health benefit plan to annually evaluate this so that we don't end up in this position in the future.
Thank you, Chairman. Do you yield for one more question?
Yes, sir.
So for the learning loss grants, the governor had originally recommended $25 million, but it came back to zero. And I see that some of the federal funds would be used for this purpose, but will the state be appropriating any funds for learning loss, either in this budget or the 24
You
budget?
know, right now, it's not the position either with the Senate or House conferees to do that, because there is so much federal money still out there that has not been claimed. And the superintendents that we have talked with have said, look, I've got all the money I need for that. So we actually took that 25 million and pushed it to 24 to give us some room in 24's funding, because 24 is going to be tight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Gentleman, yield for a question from
Yes,
one
sir.
of your hard-working chairs.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Representative Dubnik, Chairman Dubnik's recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chairman yield?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, is it not true that you don't need a penny just to hang around, but if you've got a nickel, won't you lay your money down?
I believe the gentleman to believe that true.
Gentleman, yield for another question.
Yes, sir.
In that same area, Representative Bentley is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a gentleman yield.
Yes.
Is
For
it not
the lady
true?
from Taylor County.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, is it not true that I'm looking forward to voting on this bill because we have students from Macon County School System that are here present watching us as we are doing our legislative duties here on today. Is that not true?
I believe the lady knows what she speaks.
The lady from the 35th, Representative Campbell, to your left, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chairman Hatchett, for all of your work. This is a question pertaining to the education budget, line item 24.11.2. Is it not true that the governor had originally requested $15 million to provide for reimbursable grants to paraprofessionals who are seeking to earn teaching certificates, and that this budget is reduced greatly by $10 million? And if that's accurate, can you share the rationale behind that reduction, especially given our significant teacher shortages?
We did, so we agree in concept with the governor on this, but there aren't as many people in that pipeline as the governor once thought, and there are a lot of people in there that really, they don't want to go further, and also looking that you put the money in there, not all of it's going to go immediately. So we did reduce it some to let that occur over time, and to get money to spend in other places. But we don't disagree with the concept. We just kind of might not agree with how much at this time. So,
Gentleman, yield for just a couple more.
I will, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Deloach, to your right, has a question. Chairman Deloach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you yield for a question?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that the mental health, particularly for military members and their families, has been incredibly important both to me and to Representative Al Williams in Liberty County, and we want to say thank you for agreeing to the Senate add of $750,000 for a mental health clinic in Hinesville.
Thank you. I do believe that had we received that request before we went to the floor, we probably would have added that in too, but we agree with it. And appreciate those people for the work that they're doing for our veterans.
Mr. Chairman, the lady from the 52nd, Representative Roberts, just out in front of you to your left, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking at the budget, and in the governor's and on ours, we were going to appropriate $4 million to provide funds to replace equipment related to the voting machines, and then the Senate reduced it down to $1 million. Am I correct in seeing that it's now zero, and can you tell me a little bit about how that happened?
Yes, the conference committee met, and that was one of the issues that we really were having difficulty agreeing on. So we are looking at putting it in the 24 budget and possibly bonding that. So.
Thank you. Work on this.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the day is going to be long. It's eating time for lunch, and I will.
Mr. Chairman, would you take one more question? The Dean of this House has a burning question.
you recommend I do that, I will.
I recommend you hear from
Especially from the dean.
Chairman Gerald Green for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the gentleman in the well, Southwest Georgia thanks this particular, what you have done in this particular budget to help us down in Southwest Georgia, especially on the invasive species that we're finding in our lakes. You have been really, really helpful there, and thank you for helping us with the money to provide for a study for a rural hospital that we lost several years ago. Thank you so much to your work and the work of the committees here.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean Green, and we want to stop the Cuban bull rush. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask for this body's favorable consideration of the Conference Committee report on HB 18.
The gentleman has yielded the well. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on HB 18, all in favor of the adoption of the Conference Committee report will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Holly rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that for the way that Chairman Hatchett so eloquently was able to give his presentation and so calmly, he has inspired us to perhaps wear his footwear in the chamber?
Well, Representative, that'll be a decision for each and every member on the stylish footwear to try to emulate the chairman. For what purpose does Representative Roberts rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Isn't it true that I am extremely concerned about the removal of the money for our counties for replacement of election equipment because they are already dramatically underfunded, working at a deficit, and this money was very important to them? Thank you.
If the lady
Is it not true? Sorry.
If the lady so states, I'm sure she believes that to be accurate. One last parliamentary inquiry. For what purpose does Representative Williams, Mary Frances Williams, rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that about the time work on this budget started, Chairman Hatchett learned of some severe cuts at the federal level to domestic violence shelters all over the state, and he and his committee responded by giving immediate help to these shelters for badly needed funds to keep them open and serving people who need this help?
I'm sure the lady knows of what she speaks, and we, all the members of this House, do appreciate your involvement. That's why this is a bipartisan bill with lots of good ideas from both sides. Thank you for your help in informing the chairman on those issues, and appreciate the chairman addressing them in this budget. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the bill, the yeas are 172, the nays 2. The bill, having received the constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chairman Hatchett is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Conference Committee report on House Bill 18 be immediately transmitted to the governor.
Representative Hatchett moves to immediately transmit the Conference Committee report on House Bill 18 to the governor pursuant to Article 3, Section 5, Paragraph 13 of the Constitution. The clerk will read the caption.
The Committee of Conference on HB 18 recommends that both the House of Representatives and the Senate receive from their positions in the attached committee of conference substitute to HB 18 be adopted.
On the gentleman's motion that the House immediately transmit the conference committee report on HB 18 to the governor, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion for immediate transmittal of HB 18, the yeas are 174, the nays 0, and this House has voted to immediately transmit the conference committee report on House Bill 18 to the governor. Excellent work, Mr. Chairman, and your staff. We appreciate it, and your committee chairs. Thank you so much. Look forward to doing another one with you. Mr. Chairman, I was going to help you on that CCR, but I was stuck on the same thing you were. So here we go. Well, we've managed to work through the calendar this morning. Can I hear a motion? We do have a few announcements. Representative Marion is recognized for an announcement. Representative Pedro Marion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Buenos días a todos. My 21st crossover day. So I guess been there, done that, and I want to show your attention to the flyer that you had in the desk this morning about the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce annual luncheon that is going to be tomorrow. We will have the U.S. Ambassador in Washington for the country of El Salvador, Governor Brian Kemp, Speaker of the House, Burns, and the Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones. So again, doors open at 11. So again, come and have lunch with us over at the depot. So we're celebrating with the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce their accomplishment. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Nulowitz is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you. The Cobb County Legislative Delegation is meeting today. This is for noon in 514 CLOB. Because this is crossover day, because we have a lot of things going on, this is a drop-in lunch, but our sponsors are going to be there to talk to you and answer any questions you might have, and I promise you, it's a really good lunch. So 514 CLOB, Cobb County Legislative Delegation. Thank you.
Representative Bentley is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All colleagues, you are invited to room 230 around 12:30 to meet the young students from Macon County High School system at a time when there's so much going on, violence across this state. We're so proud to have a group of young men representing in a very positive way their school, their county, Macon County Gents, and their sponsor, Mr. Jimmy Daniels. So please come by room 230 around 12:30 to welcome them to their state capitol. Thank you.
Chairman Billy Mitchell is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Democratic Caucus will meet upon adjournment in 502 in the CLOB. Lunch will be served. It will be a hybrid meeting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Gamble, no, excuse me, that's the end of day. I'm sorry. I was trying to skip this next gentleman, but he just keeps coming back. Chairman Richard Smith is recognized for an announcement.
Okay, House Rules Committee will meet at 1 o'clock. You know, I told some of them who came in to see me Friday, I said, I'm going to put your bill on last, so that about 6 o'clock, I'm going to get up and tell y'all that the reason you're still here is because of them. So, 1 o'clock.
Representative Miriam Parrish has an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, you know, March is a big month for the city of Macon. We have our annual Cherry Blossom Festival. That's going to be coming up, but I also want to...
Ma'am, if you will suspend just for a minute. This is important. This is a big deal down in Macon, y'all.
Sure
it's
is.
beautiful. Continue.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, so the Cherry Blossom Festival is coming up. It's a big event for us. It's an international event. We will have some more information on it later, but even more than that, this is our bicentennial year. Macon turns 200 years old this year, and so I want you all to help us celebrate 200 years for Macon, Georgia. Thank you, and also today is my son Ronnie's birthday. I want to wish him a happy birthday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So first, if you have a page today, we have a group of great, did I say pages? Yeah, I said pages. Thought I said something else. We have a group of great pages who've been working hard this morning. We want to, for those of you that have pages here today, if you'll come up front, we're going to take some page photos here at lunchtime, and then some of them will be with us in the afternoon as well. So we're going to have pages all afternoon, and as late as y'all would like to work tonight, I think some of them may hang around with us. So here's our posture. It's 12 o'clock. If you have a bill that came out of committee you were not heard this morning in the Rules Committee, you will need to be at the Rules Committee with Chairman Smith at 1 p.m. to make your presentation, 1 p.m. We will come back here at 2 p.m. to continue the rules calendar. At 2 p.m. sharp, 2 p.m. sharp, we will continue the rules calendar. We have a lot of things that came out late. If you have a bill, for you to have the opportunity to get it on the rules calendar, you'll need to be at the Rules Committee beginning at 1 p.m. With that, we will stand in recess until 2 p.m. sharp.